Hi, I'm attorney Steve Reilly, and today I'm going to be talking about part 2 of my 7 tips for buyers of real estate or those who are contemplating buying real estate to look out for so they don't get taken advantage of. And in our last video, we talked about starting with a lawyer. Make sure you read the fine print, investigate the zoning, and investigate whether or not there are any easements. So my 5th tip is to make sure that that contract, if you don't start with an attorney, is subject to a title search, subject to a what is called a municipal search, and also subject to a building inspection. Now here's the key. You want to make sure that that building inspection language in that contract makes that satisfaction subjective. In other words, not just to simply say in the contract that the contract is subject to a satisfactory building inspection, because that somebody may argue that that's an objective term. You want to make sure that it's to the title search, the municipal search, and the building inspection, that the results of those have to be subject to your subjective satisfaction, or else you can walk away from that transaction. So making sure that it's a subjective criteria is very important to your purchase. The 6th criteria is to make sure that you thoroughly inspect the property. What I mean by that is to walk the grounds, to look around and see what things may give you some concern. For example, you might see a shed or something that's very close to the border, and you're wondering, does that thing violate zoning? Should it be there, or is it a pre-existing non-conforming use? Also, and here's a big red flag, if you have a driveway of a neighbor that's close to your property line, the question then becomes, where exactly is your line? Because it could turn out that your property line is partially into the neighbor's driveway. And then you have all sorts of issues that will pop up after the closing of, well, where's the line? Did the neighbor have, for example, has he had that area tarred, and has he maintained it so that he meets the criteria of a adverse possession claim on that land? So anytime you have a driveway very close to what is a border on your property, even if there's a fence there or some brushes or so on, you want to try to find out as much as you can of whether or not that property, that driveway is on your property or it is solely on your neighbor's property. Now, the only way to figure that out precisely is to have a survey performed of the property. So you can always make the contract subject to a satisfactory survey. However, the likelihood is you may very well have to pay for that survey, and that's why most people don't ask for one. But you still can find out some things by asking a lot of questions about the property itself. One of the things you can do if your property's in a congested area, look up and see if there's any wires that cross that property, and they might serve another property, or those might be or if wires cross another property to serve your property. So you don't want to find out after you buy the property that somebody decides to take down your cable wire when you don't have an actual easement there. It might have been that it's just there over time. So it's something you want to look out for. So you want to walk the lines, look up, make sure that there's no wires other than the typical wires that come from a telephone pole on the street directly to your property. Usually I see those kinds of things in congested areas, not out in more rural areas where there isn't a lot of wires crisscrossing around up in the air. So you do want to inspect the land area to make sure there's no problems. And the final tip is make sure that your contract is subject to what's called a municipal search. Now, I did mention that briefly, but I wanted to tell you what that really is all about. Now, what we can do is we can order what's called a municipal search to take place. Usually we ask our title companies to deal with that. And they have people that go down to the land records and go down to the building departments rather, and the zoning departments. And they find out, is there anything there, for example, with regard to a building permit that was not done, or the building permit was never finalized and the property was never inspected and given a final certificate of occupancy. So, for example, you might see that there's a deck on the back of your property, and you might be wondering, hey, did they get a building permit to put that deck on, or was it built originally with the house when they originally got the CO? So these are things that you want to check up on, and the municipal search can also look for those things to see if there's any problems, like an unreleased building permit, where somebody got a building permit to do something, whether it be electrical, whether it be contractual, and so on, for that property to build something on it, and never got a final inspection by the town. Well, you wouldn't want to be saddled after the closing with having somebody from the town come out and say, hey, that we never inspected this, to inspect it and say, it's not built the way it should have been built, and therefore you have to tear it down. Or you have to modify it. Either way, it could be an expensive proposition. So one of the things you want to have your contract subject to, in addition to a title search, is also have it subject to a municipal search as well as a building inspection. Well, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and also think about subscribing to that button down there and also clicking on the bell. That way we can get these videos like this out to more people like yourself. Well, thank you for watching and have a great day.